Coming off the 90s, the Italian top flight was still held in the highest regard, but the competition was getting fierce. Once the home of all the game's superstars, the oligarchs of Chelsea and the Galacticos of Madrid were hinting at the end of Serie A's reign. Still, Italy was the place to be as the 21st century got underway, with the strongest teams, loudest fan bases, and richest culture. So having addressed the previous decade, here's my list ranking the top 10 forwards from the 2000s era of Serie A. Number 10. Cristiano Lucarelli. A name most wouldn't have heard of, the Amaranto legend was not only the captain who led Livorno to promotion, and was much more than just a bagsman, he was the symbol of the club. Refusing to entertain transfer talk, Lucarelli's first and only love was his hometown, and played like it upon their return to Serie A. In 04-05, he didn't just keep Livorno alive, but pushed them into the table's top half with 24 goals to win the Capocannoniere, the league's top scorer award. A brutal finisher off either foot, brilliant aerial poacher and all-round sportsman, the man who wore the 99 stood out amongst elite company and for that deserves some credit. Number 9. Adriano. The mention of Adriano evokes more sadness than awe because of how and why it ended so early. But for a 22-year-old to be christened the Emperor by the Interisti speaks volumes of his impact, however short. Cult spells at Parma and Fiorentina earned a callback to the Nerazzurri, where for several years he was unplayable. 6'2", broad and still rapid, the toughest defenders in Italy couldn't stop him on his day. Too strong to barge, too tricky to tackle, and too quick to catch. He was like O Fenomeno on steroids. Quality over quantity goals-wise, he wasn't at his peak for long. But while there, his catalogue became ridiculous, gifted with one of the game's most powerful shots ever recorded. Life took its toll on L'Imperatore, and he faded away as suddenly as he'd emerged. Still, his time is remembered fondly, one of the scariest peaks we've ever seen. Number 8. Hernan Crespo. The tail end of the 90s saw the pinnacle of Parma's rise, and that of their number 9, who'd proven worthy of a record-setting transfer, landing him in the capital for Scudetto holders Lazio. The Biancazzurri saw the best of this faultless striker, racking up 39 goals across 2 seasons before moving on to Milan, having a go in the red and in the blue, sandwiching a couple of years in England. Crespo's ravenous opportunism, understanding of timing, and full Rolodex of finishes made him a world-class target man. For a guy expected to score 20 a year, Valdenito was uniquely selfless, brilliant alone or in a pairing, and formed some of the great duos in Serie A. An old-fashioned yet dynamic marksman. Number 7. Luca Toni. The last great Italian centre-forward was traditional, towering and awkward, but most importantly prolific. Notching almost 100 league goals in the noughties alone, even with a 2-season Bayern excursion, the poaching Pavlese had his priorities sorted, aligning himself with the principle that, in the end, as long as they go in, it doesn't matter how. It was with La Viola Toni hit his apex, becoming the first Serie A player in over 50 years to score above 30 league goals, a haul that outscored the whole of the continent. Handed an unathletic deck, what he lacked in pace, technique and balance, Toni made up for with his predatory instincts and precise finishing. Unorthodox yet lethal, if a ball came into a box he occupied, there was always the likelihood of a changed scoreline. Number 6. Christian Vieri. By 2000, Bobo was already established on the global stage. From leading out Lippi's Juve, to averaging a goal per game in Madrid, to scoring a hatful at the World Cup, the Aussie was rivaling Ronaldo as the world's greatest number 9. The pair were united in a partnership that promised the world, and though it never came to fruition, Vieri's Inter tenure became stuff of legend. Adding a century of goals to his Serie A tally, the ball with the butterfly step wasn't the most blistering of forwards, but always seemed in the right place at the crucial time, and endured through the injuries as one of Italy's most consistent scorers. Working well with an array of partners throughout a grey patch at San Siro, he became a generous provider as he aged, changing his game and standing the test of time to cement his place in the chronicles of Calcio. Number 5. Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Arriving at Delle Alpi, a fresh-faced 23-year-old, the Lion learned about Serie A in bianconeri colours, but dominated it in the black and blue when we saw what many consider to be prime Zlatan. In Milan, his self-confidence grew as the MVP of the team he supported as a kid, and still with the pace, technique, acrobatics and aggression, he was elite. Those Capello lectures and Van Basten tapes were evident as the goals kept going in and jaws kept getting dropped, particularly during 08-09 when Mourinho added petrol to his fire and Ibra found the back of the net 25 times for the capocannoniere, steering Inter to a third Scudetto in a row. He only spent half the decade in Serie A, but elevated those teams he played in, giving a plethora of great memories, and the best was still to come. Number 4. David Trezeguet. The Rouennais came to Turin in 2000, only weeks after denying Italy the European Championship. So it says a lot that after his hostile welcome to the Alps, the public enemy was soon crowned King David. Sporting the zebra stripes for 10 years, Trezeguet was one of the first brought in during a transitional period for Juventus, aging down as they got back to competing, and as soon as Lippi returned, deploying him beside the 10, it was a wrap. Becoming the target man of a congruent double act, the 17 did exactly what was needed of him, enough to seal Juve's 26th title as the league's top scorer. Despite his 6'3" frame, Trezeguet was slippery in the hands of defenders, agile and elusive like a fish in water, somehow always finding himself free in the box for a neat finish. Loyal to the end, the Frenchman stayed with them through the Serie B fight before seeing out the decade to endear himself eternally to the Bianconeri. Number 3. Alessandro Del Piero. And then there was his partner in crime, the all-time leading scorer and prince of Juventus. Bursting onto the scene in the mid-90s, the teenager was almost the catalyst for their dominant run, but after that 98 knee injury, his momentum slowed, as did Juve's. Though in this front too, glimpses of that young fantasista were seen much more often. The touch to kill a ball instantly, the two-footedness that kept him unpredictable, and the vision to dissect defences. His lost explosiveness meant he had to rely on his technique to set the pace of play, and the thinking side to Pinturicchio's game saw major development. More of a second striker, the 10 would often drop deep, floating to retrieve the ball as playmaker for the Frenchman, handing him the nails to hammer home. This didn't slow his strike rate, as Trezeguet was his perfect foil, decoying for Alex's runs into the box, which accounted for many of his 120 league goals in the 2000s alone. He, like Trezeguet, remained Bianconero across the Calciopoli scandal, and upon returning to the top flight, the 33-year-old won the capocannoniere for the first time in his career, before ushering Juve out of the noughties and onto brighter horizons. Number 2. Andriy Shevchenko. When Ariedo Braida approached Dynamo Kiev's wonder kid in 1999, he made him a promise: put on the Rossoneri stripes and you'll become the best in the world. Within a few years, it was kept to. Joining the champions of Italy, he outperformed both Oliver Bierhoff and George Weah, topping Serie A's scoring charts in his debut year, a feat only legends like Platini, Nordal and John Charles can claim. Then, from the age of 24, the team was built around him, and quickly Milan's fortunes changed. One of the hardest working strikers you'll ever see, Sheva took nothing for granted and never stopped pushing himself to fulfill those expectations. In 2004, after the European Cup and Scudetto, again as Serie A's top scorer, he became Ukraine's first ever recipient of the Ballon d'Or, marking the pinnacle of his career. From his versatility across the front line, prowess in smashing them in from anywhere, and telepathic bond with Kaká, Shevchenko was undeniably one of the best out-and-out centre forwards of his era, checking every box on the striker's bingo card. He may have abandoned Italy during his peak, but those 6 seasons on his rise to the top were unforgettable, still lauded as one of Calcio's finest foreigners ever. And here are some of the names that narrowly missed out. Alberto Gilardino. After a dry spell in Verona, Gila joined Parma, where his stylish sharpshooting made him one of the deadliest strikers around, bagging 23 in back-to-back seasons to be named Serie A Footballer of the Year and get him a move to Milan by his 24th birthday. Dario Hubner. A late-blooming underdog, the man from Muggia was a bit too rebellious for the nation's juggernauts. Known to smoke on the bench and drink grappa, the former factory worker was far from elegant, more of a bison, but it worked for him at Piacenza, becoming the oldest ever Capocannoniere winner in 2002. Filippo Inzaghi. There's no doubting Super Pippo's place in Italian folklore, but the best of the offside merchant was seen in the 90s, and though plenty of success came his way in Rossoneri colours, the persistent knee injuries kept his game time low. Nevertheless, even into his 30s, he was always there for Milan, particularly in Europe. Number 1. Francesco Totti. The 8th King of Rome, the Golden Boy, Il Capitano, whichever name you choose, Francesco Totti is footballing royalty, and perhaps Italy's most gifted of all time. 24 years as the beacon of hope in the Eternal City, he demonstrated a devotion to his boyhood club that only few others can compete with, earning his spot, adjusting his game, and maintaining his level across 3 decades. Kicking off the decade with his proudest moment, captaining Roma to their 3rd ever Scudetto, he was already the epicentre of Capello's system, playmaking as the trequartista behind Batistuta and Montella. As a pure 10, he was a magician, slipping through no-look passes with perfect weight and timing, while also a powerful 2-footed finisher. Mid-decade, during Roma's struggles, he transitioned to striker and promptly became the best in the division, winning not just his first Capocannoniere, but Golden Boot. More of a false 9 in a formation dubbed the 4-6-0, his shooting boots couldn't switch off his creative mind, and 06-07 has gone down as a standout individual season. The extraordinary strikes, ingenious assists, and unrelenting leadership, Francesco Totti tops the list for not just his completeness, but influence.